And welcome to this edition of Living History. I'm your host, Mike Hauser, and today we're very pleased to have as our studio guest Mr. Raymond Garcia, a former council member. Welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Raymond, tell us, when did you come to the Conejo Valley?
First came out here in 1959 in July looking for property, and I bought a house in 1959 and watched it being built. We moved in April of 1960.
And can I ask you, what did housing cost back in 1960?
Our house was like $14,950, and maybe $1,500 down payment, you know. So it was not really that. It was about $10,000 cheaper than in the valley. So that's why we came out here.
Describe Thousand Oaks to someone who has maybe moved here in the last few years. What was it like in the 1960s?
Well, there was, Moore Park was a two-lane road, went all the way to Moore Park, and there was a little airport or landing strip by where Dupars is, and that was in the movie Flying Tigers, and people don't remember that, but there was actually a landing strip there, and they had a house there that was used for the movie, and they have that as part of California Lutheran College Student Center now. So it was just all hills, not many trees at all, and a lot of bighorn cattle, a lot of cattle going, and a lot of new development, a lot of big signs for selling houses, but that's about it. I think there was a gas station and a rock house, and that's about it, not too much other than that.
Now, you are by profession a lawyer.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your legal background and your training.
Well, I became a lawyer in 1967 when I passed the bar, but prior to that I had been an accountant and a controller in a company. So my first job as a lawyer, I had never been in a courtroom before. It was with the Los Angeles County Public Defender's Office in Los Angeles. Then I worked there for about 6 months defending all kinds of interesting people. And then I started to practice in Thousand Oaks. And I did work for one year with Baskin Robbins, the ice cream store, and that was interesting. And I did have a partnership with the Cohen, England, Whitfield, and Osborne. I was I had merged my firm with their firm, so I was involved with them for about 3 years, and then I went on my own. I've been a sole practitioner since that time for about the last 30 years, 35 years.
Now, Thousand Oaks was incorporated as a city in 1964,
yes.
And in 1968 you ran for city council. Tell us a little bit about your reasons for wanting to join the council. Well,
I spent a lot of time going back and forth to school at nighttime, you know, at 4.5 years going to law school, and I saw Thousand Oaks growing and all the people that were involved doing things for Thousand Oaks, and I really hadn't contributed anything. I felt it would be sort of nice to get involved and help with the city. Everyone seemed to be so much involved, so much interested in doing things, and I wanted to contribute my part to the city. I felt that it was important to do what everyone should do their part for the city, and Thousand Oaks looked like a good place to start.
Tell us a little bit about the people that you served with. We had mentioned when you and I earlier together had talked about Alex Fiore.
Yes, I did have the opportunity to work with Alex Fiore. He was on the council when I first ran. He was a very, very fine person, very honest, forthright, you know, and he didn't miss any punches. He said what he wanted to say, and everyone very, very well respected in the community. David Betts was another person who happened to be an escrow officer that when I first bought my house, he helped me with the escrow. So I liked him. He had run for honorary mayor of Thousand Oaks, like in Conejo Valley days. And so he was actually the mayor of Thousand Oaks when I ran for the city council. And there was Dick Hoos. He was on the city council, a very fine person. Dick Williams. And they had a nice city council, and John Tapkin was on the city council also.
Yeah. What are some of the issues early in Thousand Oaks that the council and the residents had to deal with?
Well, believe it or not, we had a traffic problem. We had water problems. We had flooding problems. It rained real hard, and we had some floods and things like that. And we had a problem to protecting the oaks. We all wanted to protect the oak trees. We were concerned about the quick development destroying all the oak trees, and we didn't want the hills being destroyed or anything like that. So we wanted to preserve the character of Thousand Oaks that attracted people to Thousand Oaks. You know, the historic things, the old oak trees, and the beautiful hills, and it's just a beautiful place to be.
Tell us a little bit about how the Los Robles Golf Course sort of evolved into what we have now with the Oaks Mall and the senior housing.
Well, the golf course was owned by the Jantz Corporation, and Glenn Kendall, our city manager, came to us to the council and said, well, you know, he was talking to the people at Jantz, and they said they might be interested in selling us the golf course. You know, what do you think? And along with the golf course, they wanted to sell us like another 400 acres of open space. And we thought, boy, what an opportunity. So we jumped on it, and there was a bond issue, and we bought the golf course. And we've been very happy to have it ever since. And we have almost 400 acres of open space. And it was a wonderful acquisition, and we were very fortunate to get it, especially at the time we got it for such a good price.
Well, in 40 years, you've obviously seen a lot of change in Thousand Oaks. What do you think has been the biggest change to the community in the last 40 years?
The biggest change probably is in the traffic that we've had. We still have a major traffic problem. Even in 1968, we had a traffic problem. We still have that traffic problem. We have industry here, and we have retail stores that we did not have before, and that's the big change. We have a very sound base with all the retail sales that we get. The city gets a percentage of the retail sales tax dollars, and so the acquisition or the coming in of Amgem, that's been a great thing for Thousand Oaks. We wanted to keep Thousand Oaks free of any property taxes, so we wanted to create a base where we had a lot of retail sales, a lot of light industry, nothing, no factories or anything, but we did want to have light industry and electronics and things like that. We managed to get all those things, so it's been a interesting development. We still seem to be fighting about the same things that we were fighting about in 1968, overcrowding and too much development, things like that.
Well, if you were going to describe somebody to Thousand Oaks to somebody who had never been here before, how would you describe the community?
When I first...
Let's take both. When you first got here and now today.
Thousand Oaks was just a beautiful place to raise your children. There was not the heavy traffic. There was a beautiful clear skies. It was just so pretty just about every day. The temperature was very good, and it was just a real healthy place to live. And everyone was very friendly. I mean, everybody liked everybody, and we had a few markets, and everybody, would meet people at the market, and everyone seemed to have their own church, and they would go to church, and they were very, very kind to each other, very nice. Now, today, I would describe Thousand Oaks as being a community that is happy with what they have. Everyone's proud of what they have. But as the city grew, the problems grew, and with more people, we have more problems with finding housing for the people that have to work in Thousand Oaks. I mean, it's hard to imagine having a city where your kids can live in and afford to buy a house. Well, a lot of our kids ended up having to move elsewhere because they couldn't afford to buy a house in Thousand Oaks. So that's one of the problems that we have today with the high cost of housing. And Thousand Oaks is still one of the unique places to live, and property values seem to keep going up, and it's just we have a good government. I think the people on the council are very fine people, and they all want the best for Thousand Oaks, and I think that those are the good things about Thousand Oaks today.
Who do you think has had the greatest impact on influencing where Thousand Oaks is today? Is there any one person or a group of people who you think had the most impact?
Well, I would say the two people, and obviously Alex Fiore was one of the great leaders of Thousand Oaks, had a lot of good ideas, but Glenn Kendall, the city manager, was really the behind-the-scene person, moving, motivating, and giving us the ideas as to where to go, what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And when he left, we had Grant Brimhall as the city manager. And I think a tremendous amount of thanks should be given to him for his dedication and for his involvement, for the construction of this place where we are today. Both Glenn Kendall and Grant Brimhall are responsible for Thousand Oaks, I would say. The council, we solved problems, we solved issues, we tried to preserve things as much as we could with our own philosophy as to growth and trees and hills and things like that. But the real nitty-gritty was done, by the great city managers and the staff that they had. They had tremendous staff, tremendous people in the planning department, Phil Gatch, Bill Hale, right down through. We had good people. Velma Quinn, our city clerk, our present city clerk, just tremendous people in the city. I think those are the people that are really responsible for Thousand Oaks.
We talked a little bit about California Lutheran University. Tell us a little bit about your involvement with the university.
Well, we used to go to California College because they had one of the few swimming pools in the area, and we would go swimming there. And they built a library, and prior to it, they had chicken coops that they used for student housing and for the church and the chapel and things like that. I studied for my law school thing at the California Lutheran College, and I got involved with the college when they became involved with the NEIA tournament. They had a championship football team. I happened to get involved with that, going to the various games, and I also had a challenge the mayor from the city that was, we were playing the game against Montana State, I believe it was, and mayor of Butte, Montana, I had suggested that we have a pass, punt, and kick contest, and he declined, but he said, rather than that, why don't we have a spitting contest? And he sent me a beautiful brass spittoon and a brass key to his city in Butte, Montana, and he suggested we have a spitting contest. So when we were building our city hall, I said, well, fine, I'm going to have a special hole in this new city hall so that I can practice my spitting. And we won the game, so we became the champions, and so everything was fine with the college. I served as on the college as for the council for advisors to the president, and I've employed many people from the college in my law office, and I've just been very pleased with the college. It's been a very good university to us, for the city, and I think we've been good for them too.
Good. What would you consider to be your greatest personal achievement?
As far as the city councilman, I would say my greatest achievement was I would say what I had on my mind, and I would try to follow through with it. I wanted to have a city attorney hired. We did hire a city attorney, our own city attorney, Raymond Clayton. We tried to preserve the oak trees. We tried to preserve the tills. I joined with the councilman in all those things to try to preserve the integrity of the basic things that we had in Thousand Oaks. And I think perhaps the thing that I will be remembered most for in Thousand Oaks was having 2 Halloweens. Unfortunately, Halloween happened to be on a Sunday night, and some young students asked me to please change Halloween. They had to go to church on Sunday, so what could I do about it? So I thought, well, I will, since I'm the mayor, I think I can kind of accommodate things, and I figured that the time changed on Saturday, so if we had Halloween on Saturday, they'd get an extra hour to stay up and have more fun Halloween, and then they could go to church on Sunday. So I thought that's a good idea, so we changed Halloween. And I presented that to the council after, I thought, people kept complaining after I had suggested that, and they called me up and everything. I thought, this probably was not a good idea. And so I thought, well, by that time I had learned how to be a politician, so I thought, well, rather than just ignoring it, I'll throw it back to the council, and hopefully they will vote it down, and I'll be off the hot seat. It didn't happen that way. My friend Alex Fiore said, Ray, this is your baby, you take it and go with it. And so I said, all right, I said it, so we're going to do it. So we did have Halloween on Saturday, and we're probably the only city in the country that had Halloween on Saturday, but we got international news about that. I was in the newspaper with cartoons of witches flying over Thousand Oaks, scratching their head trying to figure out which day is Halloween, you know, and so it caused a lot of confusion, a lot of problems. But we not only had Halloween on Saturday, but we also had Halloween on Sunday. So I thought, well, it can't all be that bad. I'll wait till those kids grow up, and then I'll run again. Maybe I'll have a lot of votes from the kids that enjoyed 2 Halloweens that year. But anyway, that was one of the fun things that happened, and I get teased about it every once in a while, but I just take it in stride.
What's the greatest challenge facing our current city council?
The greatest challenge is working together and trying not to overdo things. I think the most important thing is you have to remember that people that own property have certain property rights, and you cannot just totally ignore property rights. If people own a piece of property, they want to develop the property, they're entitled to have a fair hearing regarding their property and what they can do with it. And if they want to develop it, and whatever they want to put on it, that's their right. And it has to be a fair consideration as to what those property rights are. You can't totally ignore property rights just because you don't want growth. You have to consider people, both sides of the issue, and what are the property rights, the rights of people to develop their property. And I also think that you have to consider the things that, environmental things. So like, is it too much traffic? Is it going to cause too much problems? Is it going to be too expensive? Are we really providing housing for the poor people, or are we just providing housing for the rich people, or what? We have to consider all those things as to being fair also, so that you don't overpopulate things. So there's an even balance, but you can't go overboard either way.
Looking forward, say 20 years, how would you like to see Thousand Oaks as a community?
Well, Thousand Oaks is pretty well developed right now. I would say that Thousand Oaks will continue to grow. Housing will be more expensive as years go by because it's such a nice place to live. And I would say that Thousand Oaks is still going to be one of the most desirable places to live, not only in the state but in the whole country. I would hope to think that Thousand Oaks will have sufficient assets to be able to take care of the needy, the homeless, the people that really need help, to provide shelter for the people that are homeless right now. A lot of good things have been done along those areas, but there's still tremendous need out there for those that are less fortunate. And hopefully those will be solved in the next 20 years. And we'll continue to have the courage to do the things we should when we're supposed to do it.
How would you like history to remember you?
Well, I'd like history to remember me as being a person that was very optimistic and very enjoyed life, that was very happy and content regardless of what the situation was. I always like to have them feel that I did my best that I could with what I had, and that there's a lot of possibilities that if I could get on the city council, anybody can get on the city council, and if you work at it and try hard, you can succeed. And I think it's important for people that have an idea or want to do something to try it. And unless you get out there and try it and put all your efforts into it, nothing will ever happen. So I think that I'd like people to remember me as a person that would say you can do it if you try.
Good. Is there anything else that we ought to talk about, or any question I haven't asked you yet?
Well, I think sometimes on the city council we spent an awful lot of time on things that we knew. For example, we spent hours and hours talking about where to put a driveway when Whitefront wanted their store, because that was within our realm of understanding. But when it come down to the budget or some real heavy things, financial things, we really didn't know that much about what we were doing, and it takes a lot of study and a lot of knowledge to really be informed, as to what to do. And but we did a lot of talking. Everybody can do a lot of talking on simple issues, but really studying and doing the things, that we really relied on the staff. And we were so fortunate to have a good staff that was able to handle these difficult problems for us. We did have one of our city councilmen, Dick Hoos, who was an engineer, and he was a person that would, when we had a plan for like the sewer treatment plant or something, he would go through that plan just page by page, and if the screw was going the right direction, fine, but if the screw was going the wrong direction, he would point that out, that screw was going the wrong way. I don't think that we really didn't understand or know ourselves, but he would point it out. So we had some good people on the council. Charles Cohen was a very good attorney. He just spoke so well, such beautiful language. Carl Bowen, I remember Carl Bowen always tried to, he was a little upset with the electric company because they had a light in front of his window at his house, and so every lighting district that we voted for, he voted against it because he didn't like the electric company. Sort of amusing. And we didn't agree on hardly anything on the council, but after the council was over, we were the best of friends. We'd go to different meetings together, and we enjoyed each other's company very much because we respected each other's ideas. And I think that's the thing that they should do today. Everyone should state their views, not be ashamed to say what they want to say, but afterwards put it to one side and be friends and go on with life, because everyone needs each other, and not be afraid to ask questions of staff, and not to rely on staff, and not to trust the staff, because sometimes the city council thinks they have all the answers, and they don't. They have to look to the experts for the answers, and then trust them to give them the right answers. Those are the things I think.
Sounds like very good advice. Thank you very much for joining us today. Appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure. We done?